Okay, I was raised in a family that did not go to church, and we did not believe in God. At least that's what my dad told me. My mom and dad got a divorce when I was 12 years old, and that's when I got a license to just go wild. I consider myself being a feral cat, and I started smoking pot, I started drinking, and so that's what we lived for. Every day was just trying to get a hold of pot or new rock and roll album or whatever. Okay, we were here meeting our life group. Larry happened to mention that he was related to Dee Osmond, and I said, is Kevin related to Dee? And Kevin was Dee's nephew. And I said, well, I got a story about Kevin. When I was 15, I was walking around town, and there was a poster on Power Pole. It said, rock concert, Resurrection Band. At the bottom said, Jesus People USA. And I thought, first thought that came to my mind, Jesus People USA, I bet these people have some good pot. And so I told my friends, and we smoked a bunch of pot before we went there, and we were really high. And here was Resurrection Band, straight up hard rock and roll. And we were just blown away by, the musicianship. And in between every song, Glenn Kaiser preached a mini sermon each time between each song, and it just started. I was kind of listening and whatever, and we were still, my friends and I were still high. And near the end of it, he had an altar call. Kevin Osmond sat right next to me and leaned over next to me, and he said, I bet you don't have the guts to go up there and give your life to Jesus. And I was just real cocky, and I thought, well, I do too. Got up and I started walking to the front. I don't know why. I think part of it was just to get away from Kevin. So I went up there, and there was this other girl up there. Glenn prayed over us from the platform, and all of a sudden, the high that I was on completely disappeared. I noticed it, like, wow, what happened? Something had happened. I said, there's something to this. All of a sudden, Larry chimed in.
Kevin being my cousin, I said, well, that's not even the half of it.
Yeah.
That I sponsored that concert. Gone over to Carbondale, where Res Band was playing, where several were led to the Lord in that, and that Glenn Kaiser's preaching was so powerful. I felt the Lord was telling me to sponsor the concert in Marion. I went ahead and booked the Civic Center. I borrowed $500 at the time. That was a lot of money. Had them come in, had the posters made, and I personally put them all over town. And I did all this work, and when the concert happened, there was just a very small crowd. Felt like, there was just very little response. And I just felt like, well, it was a failure. All this work I put into it and money. Then it all came back at this meeting when he said that. It blew me away.
Well, it's when I was first introduced to God. I mean, before that night, I had no understanding or no concept, to be God to be alive and God to be true. And we went backstage and they prayed over us and sent us home with some pamphlets and whatever. I thought, well, I'm going to live for Jesus. That's just what I thought, But from that point on, from 15 until 19, when I got genuinely saved, God was dealing with me. He'd planted a seed, and that seed took 4 years, and I was radically saved when I was 19 years old. And I all contributed going back to that night at the Resurrection Band concert. If I had not been there, what trajectory of my life would it have taken? I have no clue. But I think that was the point where God put a seed in my life, which eventually grew to when I got saved. And so we just really are blessed by that it wasn't a bust. At least one person came out of it. God ordained, and for us to be together today, just like 50 years later.
Yes.
God brought us back together.
Yes.
So, and that is the testimony.